Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome, or hopefully it's welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is Aging Gracefully with Humor. And I think during the pandemic, we have witnessed, personally experienced, heard about, know someone who is going through a situation where we have people in our family who are aging, and we're coming across all kinds of decisions that we never really thought about before. We didn't have a plan for the aging process. And that's what this show is all about. How can you age in place? How can you age gracefully with dignity and with humor? So joining me is my friend and colleague. She's the co-host of our show. Let's welcome CATHY Fulton. Hi, CATHY.
Hey, good morning. So glad to be here.
Nice to have you back again. And for people who don't know, CATHY also co-hosts the show after this, What's Trending. And the show after that, she's one of our expert presenters on Talking Heads. And she's also a panelist on A Woman's Prerogative, which was on yesterday. So you can see all of our shows on many platforms, but we suggest going to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV. Wow, that was a mouthful, CATHY.
I know. But I tell you what, it is so much fun and it's very fulfilling. I love doing this work.
Well, I really appreciate that. It's always great to see you and have a chat. And of course, you're also one of our certified elevated listeners, which means you listen at a higher level without judgment, without providing a solution, without interrupting, and without stage hogging. So everyone should reach out to you and get to know you. And of course, when you're not on this platform, you actually have an entire life of things that you're doing. You have several businesses. Tell us more about you and your work, how you help other people.
Well, one of the things that I do that really, I guess, preempted this show or, with our discussions is I have a home care agency. And it allows the elderly to age in place. So we send caregivers to the home and we'll be there either on an hourly basis or sometimes we even provide live-in care. And so I have been licensed since 2013. And I started that business as a result of what happened to my mom. She had 2 strokes back to back and she needed care. And so I kind of learned baptism by fire, what people need when they're in these situations. And so I just thought, you know what, I'm going to get licensed. I'm going to start my own business. I didn't purchase a franchise. And here we are. It's 2022 and we're still going strong. And so is my mom. She's 91. She's of course still has the cognitive impairment, but she's thriving. So that's just a little bit about what I do. I could go on and on, but we have a really great guest here today, and so I'm looking forward to highlighting him and everything that he brings to this community. He does a lot.
Thank you, CATHY. And also, before we bring out our guests, I just wanted to say I loved hearing yesterday on the show that you and your mom went for a manicure, pedicure. I think that is such a beautiful thing to do. And also, as we age, to know that we can still show up feeling good about ourselves, confident in how we look.
Well, so long story short, my mom, I moved her up from Texas to live with me so I could take care of her. And that was in 2014. And I had some criteria. I said, number one, we're not going to sit around in our sweatpants all day. Okay. You're going to get dressed. You're going to put your makeup on. You're going to, wear a cute outfit. You're going to wear your jewelry. And, we're just going to keep going because that was your norm. So we're not going to find a new normal. because I just think that self-respect and maintaining your dignity goes a long way. And so, yeah, we keep the manicures, the pedicures. I colored her hair this past weekend, and it was a great color. It turned out wonderful. I never knew I would turn into a beautician. I remember the first time that I colored her hair, as I was putting on, like the first row of color. She's like, "Have you ever done this before?" And I'm like, "Nope." And she's like, "Oh no," but it turned out. So, so that's been another one of my job descriptions ever since. So,
there's nothing you can't do, Kathy. You amaze me. I love it.
yes,
Kathy,
there are.
share a little bit about how you first encountered our guest today, who is the founder of Positive Aging, Steve Gurney. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll bring him out.
Well, so as I mentioned, back in 2013, I started this business, and just getting my feet wet, trying to get out there and make connections. I was invited to a couple of his programs that were in downtown DC, and I just found him to be. I love it when people put on programs where you learn something new, where it's very informative. And so, after attending several of his programs, I've always been on his email list, and he actually puts out great stuff to read. And so I just, when we started all this, I started compiling my list of people that I should reach out to, and he was at the top of that list. He's a very kind person, very engaging, really cares about this community, and like I said, puts out great information. So this is someone that you want to get plugged in with, reach out to him and get to know. He's a nice guy.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Okay, without further ado, joining us from Washington, D.C., it's Steve Gurney, founder of Positive Aging Community. Hi,
wow.
Steve.
What an intro. Hope I can live up to that and not let you down. So great to be here, and always love talking about new and innovative ways to look at this chapter of life that we refer to as aging, although aging starts on the delivery room table. We use that term incorrectly, but thanks for having me.
We're thrilled to have you here. And as I mentioned in the beginning, it's hard to find someone who isn't going through this experience. If we're still alive, we are going through the process. And yet we have people ahead of us in our families. We love them, and they're going through change. We don't actually know what to do. And there's that dreaded fear about getting older. So how did you get involved with this area, and why are you so passionate about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, I want to compliment you on the title of your program here. I think it's like Aging Gracefully with Humor, focusing on the humor aspect, because at all stages in life, I think that we have to just have the ability to laugh at ourselves and look at the world through with a wider point of view. Okay, but my own story, how I got involved in this was by accident, like most people who stumble into this profession. Is that I was in college. My grandfather was in a nursing home, and I observed as a young man all the different things that my family had to go through and the challenges of having my grandfather in a nursing home. And so when I graduated from school, I didn't have a very good job. And so I reflected on this experience that my family went through, and I put together a guide. It looks a lot different than the one that I've got right now, but I put together a guide to help people in the same situation. I didn't think I was starting a business. I just wanted something on my resume so I'd get a better job. And much to my surprise, people loved it. And here I am 32 years later, still publishing what is now the Positive Aging Sourcebook and running the Positive Aging Community, which is a community of older adults, families, and providers, we all come together to share ideas, resources, and try to help each other. So that's a little glimpse. I've done a bunch of other stuff too, but that's a glimpse of how I got started.
Steve, thanks for sharing that. While we still have you on Spotlight, when did you realize that this hobby, so to speak, in air quotes, when did you realize that this really morphed into something much bigger?
It was really right out of the gate in terms of, I was just shocked that I had created when I created this guide and I started throwing it in the back of my Honda Accord and driving it around and distributing it myself. The reception that I got from so many people was like, wow. But a lot of people in the field were sort of like, I can't believe I didn't do this, because I had lists of all these things on my desk. And the fact that I had sort of organized this and made it user-friendly and enable people to feel confident in the decisions that they were making, whether it be moving to a senior community or aging in place or hiring what back then was called a geriatric care manager. And so I was sort of like, well, I guess I got to keep on going. And one of the best things that I ever did, I think, as Kathy had said, entrepreneurship is a great learning experience.
Yeah, it's definitely, well, for me, and the majority of my experiences, because I have a couple of businesses, I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe it's just me, but it's been baptism by fire. But I mean, it all turns out, but I'm the type of person that I'm willing to take a leap of faith. And sometimes it's been like, I've felt a few times that I was literally jumping off a building.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to pick up on that theme as far as this process in this chapter as we move through life. And if you notice, I'm intentionally not calling this chapter something like retirement or, it's because when we put labels on things, all of a sudden you create something that can create resistance. Okay. There's a phrase that I'm very used to hearing in my 32-year career, and it's, I'm not ready yet. And so if I say to somebody, oh, you sound like you might enjoy moving to Shady Acres. It's a wonderful life plan community, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, I'm not ready for that yet. And the thing I want to pick up on that you said, Kathy, is that as you were talking about your experience in business, it's a leap of faith. It all works out. I'm making it happen. I want your audience to think about that in terms of the next chapter that you're moving into. So another thing I hear an awful lot of, and I hear, I'm not ready yet, and you'll have to drag me out of this house kicking and screaming. Okay. Now, I'm a huge fan of Aging in Place. I've got tons of resources that are out there, many like Kathy's organization. And there's everything and anything to keep you in your home. If that's the most safe and accessible and best place for you to be, you can be there. But when we talk about aging with humor and we talk about this field of vision, it's sort of like if you're all alone at home, by yourself, isolated and lonely, is that really the place to be? And so just like entrepreneurship, what I urge people to say is don't pigeonhole yourself into a corner, because these statements that you might say that your kids and your network is hearing, people take this stuff seriously. And so a lot of my conversations are with adult children who are sort of like, my mom said she never wanted to leave the home, but she has severe dementia now. She doesn't know where she's at, but I feel so guilty, helping her move to a memory care community because she said she didn't want to leave this home, you know, and so have a wide field of vision. It's a lot of this. Life is like entrepreneurship, and many of us see that there are people that sort of get stuck in their ways or stuck in what they may have envisioned in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s at some point in their lifespan as being the way they wanted to live. Like they get stuck there. So anyways, let me stop babbling. You can see I can get caught on a tangent here.
Steve, I'm so glad you shared that because I personally know people who are going through that, where it's that struggle of the guilt and dealing with the other party who's basically threatening, you will not do this, you will not, I raised you, et cetera, et cetera. And it's that battle. And I'm glad that you just shared what you did.
Oh, I talk to people on a daily basis who are going through those challenges. And there's a couple of little things to remember is that number one of the resistance from our loved ones comes is that if it's a horrible term, but it's parenting your parents. It's sort of like, is that a lot of times whether it's implied or not, we kind of slide into this role where we're sort of infantilizing and talking to our parents as though they're children, and that can obviously create pushback. And so I remind the adult children that I talk to is that, look, your mom is an adult. I mean, she can make adult decisions and she can live with those consequences of those adult decisions. So let her do that. Give her the tools to do that. Be there as a supportive person. Draw a line in the sand, and establish your role. A lot of times what I find is that probably one of the best professions that's out there for these types of dynamics are aging life care managers. And if your audience is not familiar with them, these are primarily nursing and social work trained professionals who can do a variety of things. But one of the things they do best is they can make an assessment of a situation and they can help guide the family and the loved one through a plan and help implement that plan. And the interesting thing is with an aging life care manager, a lot of times like adult children will do the research, they'll hire the aging life care manager, and they might even be paying the bill for the aging life care manager. And they're shocked when the aging life care manager says, yeah, I know you called me, I know you paid the bill, but my client is your mom. And it's what your mom wants is what I'm going to do, not what you think is best. And so, anyways, let me, I'm going to share my screen here real quick because I love there again. And I mean, I think these images that I'm going to share with you are I guess you could look at them sort of as being humorous, but I one of the things that I did was I used to be an adjunct professor at the Erickson School of Aging Studies at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And on the first day of my undergraduate class, I always liked sharing this series of photos is that to remind to number one, because a lot of these undergrads, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they look at older adults as people different than them. Okay. And I think I relate so much to these photos because what we are doing is we are looking in this mirror at our younger self. And on the inside, I don't think that I'm any different than I was when I was 20, 30, 40 years old. I think I'm wiser and smarter. I might look a little bit different, but I'm the same person. Okay. And it's important, I think, for us to remind ourselves of that and to remind the people around us that, yes, you know, this gentleman might have, you know, a different color hair, wrinkles, and might not look very fit, but man, he's a kick-ass fireman, you know? I mean, you wouldn't mess with that guy, you know, about 40 years ago. So I love sharing those images with folks. I also like sharing these images. This is an ad campaign that was never in the U.S. This is by Dove, and the series is Wrinkled Wonderful and Gray Gorgeous. And I always, when we did live events, I would have I would always say to the audience, I go, look at these two women, you know, Wrinkled Wonderful and Gray Gorgeous. Well, you know, she could get Botox or plastic surgery to get rid of those wrinkles. And why on earth would she keep her hair gray? These ladies can't be as beautiful as are they? And you know, I'd ask this question, and everybody, the room would erupt, and it would be like, no, they're beautiful. You know, it's like, well, what makes them beautiful? And unanimously, everyone would say their smile. Okay, and so if there's one thing that your audience walks away from today, is that number one, there's no way to look young. Okay, there's just no way. Like, think about that. It's sort of like, oh, you're looking so good, you know, or whatever. It's sort of like, but if you want to look beautiful, just smile. Okay, it doesn't matter what your skin or your hair color looks like, just smile. Now, that is harder than you think, okay? Especially as we move through life, because life throws us left hooks and curveballs. So keeping that smile on our face is oftentimes challenging. And what I relate a smile to is having purpose in life. And that is sort of that's the $100 million question, is how do we maintain purpose? We may have some health problems. Our family is gone. I'm living alone. You know, I don't work anymore. We're used to having purpose flying out of our ears and eyes, and now it becomes a little bit more challenging. Okay, and that's one of the things that is. I got one more slide. Can I just share this one? Because this relates to purpose, but it also relates to a fun project that I did about 14 years ago. So I was regarded as this senior living expert, okay, because I published this guide and I'd interviewed and visited over 500 senior living communities. And I realized one day it's kind of like working in a restaurant and not eating a meal there. And so when I was 43, I'm 57 now, I moved in and I lived temporarily in 5 different senior living communities as a resident. And I wasn't pretending to be older. I was just myself, you know, healthy 43-year-old living in these senior living communities. And one of the things that I stumbled into was this image that you see on after I made these moves, I created this 3-legged stool, because my neighbors in these communities, they were all living there because one or all 3 of the legs of this stool were weak. They might have difficulty getting around. They didn't like to drive anymore. Their home was not necessarily accessible and safe, or they weren't connected to their neighbors anymore. And what that did was it compromised their sense of purpose. And so going back to this idea that as we move through life, we want to have a smile on our face. We want to live a purposeful life. But if life throws us some curveballs, it may be challenging to keep that smile on our face and to maintain purpose. And one of the ways that we can do that is to address the three legs of this stool. So I will stop sharing now, and I will take a pause here because like I said, I can go down a bunch of different tangents here.
Steve, I have to thank you because I personally have learned so much from everything that you just shared. And without going into details, it's sort of a day-to-day thing. And what you just shared is helping me personally. So thank you for that.
Great, great. Yeah, I think the overarching goal, those images that I shared of, people looking in the mirror, the gray gorgeous, the wrinkled wonderful, that is ageism. Okay, ageism is so we know about racism, we know about sexism, we've heard about ageism in the workplace, difficulty, somebody who comes into an interview with gray hair, and you got this 20-year-old who's in HR, we've heard about that. But ageism in terms of how we feel about this journey we're going on, and the resources that are out there to help us go through this journey. So, like, remember I said, if I say to somebody, hey, Shady Acres might be a great place for you to live because you can live a more purposeful life. You're on a 5-acre property here. I mean, this is kind of challenging, right? I'm not ready for that yet. A lot of that, I'm not ready for that yet, is ageism. Okay. And this is funny. Okay. Because so oftentimes I'll have a call from somebody, and they'll be like, okay, Mom and I, we've been going around and we've been touring senior living communities, and I think it would really help her. She's got some friends that are there, but she comes home from the tour and she says, I don't want to live with these old people. And then I say to Mom, but you're old, you're 92 or you're 85 or whatever it is. And it's sort of, you got to laugh because it's sort of like Mom is old. Okay. She says, I don't want to live with old people. What have you. And that, one of the elements of that has a little bit to do with ageism, but it has a lot to do with how we are, how we take care of community. So, number one, the reason why Mom is saying that is because right now she lives in a neighborhood with old, young, black, white, divorced, married, single, gay, what have you. There are no restrictions on, we don't have segregation anymore, except in senior living, where you can create a community where young people can't live there. And that's one of the hitches that folks have when they're presented with this option. And gosh, like I said, I just went on a tangent. Let me take another break.
Yeah, no, it's funny that you say that about, I don't want to live with those old people, because my mom is 91. She'll be 92 in February. And anytime we talk about, this topic of, well, would you like to live somewhere else? Would you like a more social environment? Because, you're pretty much joined at the hip with me. We've gone and visited, we've gone and looked, and she will walk away saying the very same thing. I don't want to live with those old people. Or like if she talks with someone that has, because of course we're visiting the memory care units. We'll get in the car and she'll say, those people are really far gone. And I'm like, on the inside, I am just dying, because it's like, it's like calling the pot calling the kettle black. It's like, oh my, and it all goes back to the photographs that you showed as well, because I've seen those, and I know you've seen like the whole series of them. And I remember when I first saw those, I just thought, whoever the photographer behind that, it just, that is the way that people, that they see themselves. I mean, I just had a conversation with another client yesterday, and he was talking about, he's 47, and I said, and that he just had a birthday, and he's, feeling like he's slowing down and stuff. And I said, well, I'm 57. And I said, I don't think that I feel any differently than when I was 47. I just keep going. And I think that I will probably always, unless something catastrophic happens, but I think I'll always view myself as someone that I can do this. Because I have a strong will and I think it's mindset. I think a lot of it is mindset.
Yeah.
So
No, it is. And I think it's there's a couple of things that I want to unpack there that you said that are really good about your mom, is that, yes, that is the normal progression, is, and this sort of ties back to the entrepreneur, is that, so, one of the things that it's very difficult for most of us to make change, and so your mom's at home, things are going, in her mind, things are going great. I mean, this is fantastic, what have you. And making a change could be challenging. But I'll tell you a great story that's similar to your mom's story. I got a call from a woman, and she was like, well, Mom, I'm really worried about her safety, because she couldn't be around her mom, and she'd pop by and visit, and they tour these different communities, and none of them were good. And in my conversation, she said something. She goes, yeah, her response is always, I can't live here. I'm a college professor, because she sort of looked at herself on a different level from the other residents there, even though there are probably 5 more prestigious college professors in that community than she was. Okay. But because they're in a wheelchair or using a walker, it's sort of like, oh, they're, I'm not like them. So she said this thing about college professor. I said, well, what did she teach in college? And she goes, oh, she was a drama and a theater professor. And I said, okay, try this. Those 3 communities that you're talking to, I want you to call them up, and I want you to ask to speak to the activities director and say that your mom is might be interested in moving there, but is there any way, and she is a professor of theater and drama, is there any way that you can integrate, whether it be high school or college or some theater and drama into the community for my mom? And there just so happened that one of those communities would open their doors to the local high school theater program, and the kids would come down and rehearse their lines in front of the residents as practice. And this was already established. And so then she told her mom, she said, Mom, I know you don't want to move, but there's one of the communities that we visited would love to have you, because they've got this program with the high school theater kids. And when I told them that you were a professor, they were blown away. And so instead of, Mom didn't just move in and pack. Mom went down when the kids were there, and she started helping out. And then on the ride home, it was a no-brainer for Mom. She's like, wait a second. I'm living alone at home. I could be there engaged in this community and helping these kids. Let's make it happen. So again, just a little story there that kind of just shows there's different paths. And as just like the entrepreneurial journey, if we're open to this, there might be an opportunity that could make our life more purposeful, even though it's not really forgive the pun with the drama, the script that we envision for ourselves. And on that, let me jump on. So one of the things here, I'm going to share our website because I want to share this and I want to tell this story before we run out of time. So here is our website, and there's a reason that I'm sharing this with you. Okay. So here's our website. You can get to it at proaging.com. Okay. But one of the things I want you to do when you get there is scroll down, because on a weekly basis, we have these online discussions similar to the one that we're having on a wide variety of topics. You can see yesterday we had a discussion with a caregiver who was abusing alcohol, and she realized she was doing this, and then she figured out how to change it. And now she's helping other people in the same boat. So on the left-hand side, you've got all of the recordings of our previous discussions. And on the right-hand side, we've got our upcoming discussions. And let me see, here it is. Yes. I want to talk about what is our most popular discussion, and that is solo aging. Okay. And so solo aging. Okay. There used to be this term, it's still out there. You may hear it. It's called elder orphan. Okay. At most of these senior living communities, there are people that may not have a visitor for years, okay, because they don't have any family. Maybe they've outlived them. Maybe they were never married. And we used to call those people elder orphans. It's the saddest, most horrible term that I've ever heard, okay? When we started doing our online discussions, let's say that we'd do a discussion on financial planning. I was surprised because I would have people, they would say, I'm a solo ager and I'm trying to figure out how to do my advanced medical directives. And I heard this term several times. And then I kind of started searching it up, and I found a woman, Carol Merrick. She wrote a book, Solo and Smart. And now, we try to do a solo aging discussion every month because it's so popular. Now, here's why I want to bring this up, because it talks a lot about the things that we're talking about. So when you think solo aging, you think maybe, oh, yeah, I know there's a woman in my neighborhood, she's widowed or she never married and she doesn't have kids. She's a solo ager. And so I'll be at a barbecue and I'll say, oh, the hottest topic is solo aging. And every now and then I'll get somebody, they'll say, oh, yeah, I know solo agers, but I don't need to worry about that. I go, really? So, well, I'm married and I got 5 kids. I'll never have to worry about being a solo ager. I'm like, wait a second. Okay. How many couples do you know where the husband and wife pass away on the same day at the same time? And then they sit back and they're like, so it's almost guaranteed either you or your spouse, one of you is going to outlive each other. So have you thought about the different roles you play in that relationship? Because one of you is going to be a solo ager. And then they'll be like, well, no, but I got 5 kids. I go, you got 5 kids. Do you want your kids jumping into a role where they're taking care of you? And do your kids want to do that? And then all of a sudden, it's sort of like, wow, never thought about these things. So the number one, Kathy, I mean, your relationship is wonderful with your mom. I can tell it's unique and special, and but the important thing is that we've got to have conversations with our loved ones, with our network in advance of what could happen to us in the future, because none of us have a crystal ball. It's sort of like, I mean, I'm a competitive athlete and my main thing is, cycling. I'm doing a bike race this weekend, and my eggs are in that basket, and I hope I can ride my bike till I'm 90 years old. But I've seen too much happen in life to people where, you know, I could have an unexpected illness. I could go blind for unexpectedly. Like there's lots of things that happen. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't focus on it. I don't stress out about it, but we all need to have conversations on if things were to change, if my spouse was to pass away, if my kids were to become disabled, you know, think about, you know, what life would be like, and what does my network look like to take care of me? Because let me tell you, this community of solo agers, and the solo aging badge is not a sad badge. It's a badge that people wear proudly. I'm a solo ager. I'm taking care of this and I'm prepared, you know. So that's our hottest topic on our discussions. And I wanted to make sure your audience knew that. And it's one I would love to introduce you to Carol Merrick and some other sort of solo aging experts out there, because I think your audience will also really benefit from the conversations around this topic.
Yes, without a doubt. I need to connect with you on more than one level, for sure, because and to the other point that you made with your story and your example about the person saying, you know, but I've got 5 kids. That's great. You may have 5 kids, you may have 10 kids, but here's a couple of newsworthy bullet points. They have their life, they have their kids, they have their career perhaps. And then not everyone is always interested in plugging in and helping out their parents. It's not, that's not a criticism. Some people just aren't wired that way, and their lives just they run on at a different rhythm, at a different level.
Yeah,
and
you know,
you can't always count on it. You
yeah,
need a backup plan.
Yeah, and this is a gross stereotype, but I've had so many conversations that what I've found is that if you've got one child, that child is generally sort of wired that mom and dad took care of me. I'm there for them, you know, I'm going to do whatever I can. But in general, what I've seen is that if you've got 2 or 3 kids, you got one that could care less and might even just be sort of like, hey, look, I don't care what you do with mom and dad, but as long as you don't spend any money, because they're my retirement plan. And then you've got one child or an in-law who is just like Florence Nightingale. You know, I mean, they are all over the place in terms of, I'm here, you know, let's do this, let's do that. We can take care of this. Oftentimes, as I'd said before, sometimes when somebody's in that mindset, they're sort of leaning into being a parent to the parent. And so even though they've got all this positive energy and they're there and they're supportive, sometimes they can turn mom and dad off because they're sort of too supportive. And then usually have a sibling in the middle who's very diplomatic, and it, you know, might be financially well off, and it's sort of like whatever's best for mom and dad, I support it. I will write a check. I will do any of that. Kathy, you said one level. Okay. Like you were making a point on something. And when you said one level, I was sort of like, oh, I need to bring up the other sort of topic that is great for your audience to know about. And that is universal design and safe and accessible homes. And it's sort of like, depending on where you live in the country, like here in the Mid-Atlantic, all of our homes are 3 or 4 levels, and the bedrooms are usually on the top floor. Okay. And so when you go back to my 3-legged stool, having an accessible, safe home is very important to aging in place. And the here's the thing, again, because none of us have a crystal ball, it's sort of like, we go on in life, we're living in the family home that we've owned since we're in our 20s. We got the thick rugs, we got the mood lighting, we got steps going in and out of every, hallway and entryway. And that's all well and good when we're healthy and mobile. But, today, mom's out on the tennis court crushing some 30-year-old in her tennis club. She trips, she falls, she's in the hospital, she's got hip and knee surgery, and now the doctor says to her, mom, the tennis pro, well, Mrs. Smith, you got a choice. You can go to the nursing and rehab center, or you can do your rehab at home. And of course, mom is going to pick door number 2. Well, of course, there's no way I'm going to a nursing home. I'm a tennis pro, and so mom is going to go home to this home that the athlete could get around, but mom in a wheelchair walker going through rehab for the next 3 months is going to be a little bit more challenging. So now all of a sudden it's sort of like, well, we gotta find a contractor to put up grab bars or to make an accessible entrance or widen some doorways or do all this type of stuff. And so one of the things that I just like to plant the seed on is that when you're making home improvements, you can also make your home more accessible. And what you're doing is you're helping make that home for a lifetime for yourself, but you're also making it a home that somebody with mobility issues can come and visit, like a grandparent. And again, another thing that I hear on a monthly basis is, yeah, my mom would love to come and visit us, but we've got too many stairs. Just she doesn't want to come here, So another little tangent. I got a million of them.
Steve, I have so many questions. My head is spinning. I feel like you're clairvoyant and have a crystal ball. And so I just welcome you to come back on this show and several others, because there's so much more I wanted to get into also about as we're aging and people are living longer. We have another show, Loving Longevity. People are living into their hundreds and what they're doing. They want to start a new business. They want to do something else. There's just so much more here that we could talk about.
I love it. Yeah, I anytime would love to come back on, and probably the best thing would be, we could come up with a list of things, and if we can focus on, hey, today we are going to talk about longevity or reinventing yourself or ageism or whatever, would love to do that. And I can also help connect you with some experts, because this topic I was just talking about, universal design, safe and accessible home, it's fascinating. And the designs are beautiful. I mean, they're absolutely amazing.
It's very exciting. And I think also I'd love to just have you come back and talk about speaking to the family member like an adult as opposed to a child, because I think this happens quite frequently.
Yeah.
So, Steve, what's the best way for people to reach out to you, and who would you like to contact you?
Oh, anybody and everybody. I love brainstorming. I love connecting. I think you can see on the bottom of the screen that you can go to proaging.com and you can order our source book. You can join our discussions. You can view our discussions. You can call me on the phone with that 800 number, 800-394-9990. You can send me an email to steve@proaging.com. I've also got a little, calendar thing. Like you can schedule a 30-minute discussion with me, and we can brainstorm your situation, whether you be in business or you're an older adult or you're a loved one. I love incubating new ways of thinking and new ideas.
Fantastic interview. Thank you so much for coming here today and sharing all this information. I personally am deeply grateful for what you shared today.
I love it. Thanks so much. And thanks everybody.
Yeah, no, thank you,
you,
Steve. Awesome job.
We'll look forward to seeing you again. Keep up the great work. Kathy, thanks so much for bringing Steve to the platform. We've got to get over to our other show. So I'm going to spotlight you. How can people reach out to you, and who would you like to contact you?
Well, anyone that has a loved one that feels that it would be great for them to age in place, please feel free to contact me. You can call me directly. I'm at 703-402-1172. But if you prefer to email me, I'm at kathyfulton1965@gmail.com. And Steve, just thanks again. And I also want to have you on What's Trending, because all of this is definitely trending in probably every household in America. So I will be in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kathy. I'll see you over in the other studio.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I just have one quick announcement to share, which is we're starting a new show. And here's the graphic. It's Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, which, if you've been with me since the beginning, just about 2 years ago, a little bit less, I started out with a show called Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. And I got it trademarked. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to bring that back. So the show is called Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, and it's a show about nothing. What does that mean? It means there's no topic that we have prepared in advance. You go ahead and book on the website, usaglobaltv.com, and we just go and talk about whatever it is we want to talk about. What happened over the weekend, what you're working on. Just imagine two people sitting in a living room having a chat. So there's no preparation, there's no requirements. Just go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, and book your session for Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn or any of the other shows that we have. We'd love to support you and your work. All right, we'll be signing off and coming back literally in minutes with What's Trending. Take care, and thanks for watching. If you're on our YouTube channel, please do subscribe. Every month I check, and we have 100% of the audience are men between the ages of 45 and 54. No females, no women, no people who don't identify as anything other than men. Where are you? Please subscribe. We'd love to have you. Thanks again.